After Lorraine becoming a judge, the first case she presided over was the divorce lawsuit between her husband and his childhood sweetheart. When she received the case file, she repeatedly verified, "May, is there any mistake in the defendant's information? The other party is really named Ollie." The assistant judge smiled. "Lorraine, this is the CEO of City H.S. Barrett Family Group. Ollie, I might make errors in any other case files, but this one absolutely cannot be recorded wrong." The assistant took out a phone and searched for Ollie's wiki entry, thrusting the cruel truth before her eyes. Staring at the photo bearing her husband's identical face, her entire body froze as if suddenly plunged into an icy abyss. The clerk colleague added fuel to the fire. "Exactly, Lorraine. You're new here so you wouldn't know. The love-hate saga between Ollie and his childhood sweetheart Karen has been going on for 7 or 8 years. This is the first time it's escalated to court. The reserved jury seats are completely packed." Lorraine nearly lost her footing, the documents slipping soundlessly from her fingertips onto the desk. The assistant asked curiously, "Lorraine, do you actually know Ollie?" "Do I know her? Not only do I know her, she and Ollie have been married for 6 years and have a son." Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. The man she had shared a bed with for 6 years was actually the CEO of Barrett's company, and someone else's husband. This was too absurd. Lorraine shook her head blankly. "I just arrived in City H. How would I know anyone?" After marriage, in order to take care of Aubrey, she resigned from her job as a top lawyer in City A and became a full-time housewife for 3 years. This year, she finally passed the exam to become a judge in City H to end their life of constant separation. Planning to share the good news with Ollie tonight, little did she know, fate would deal her a crushing blow first. Lorraine sat on the high bench of the courtroom and finally got a clear look at her childhood sweetheart Karen. Karen gracefully removed her sunglasses, adorned in luxury, and elegantly took her seat, her jade-white fingertips lightly tapping the table. "Looking at myself, raising Aubrey alone has left me increasingly haggard. To save on living expenses, I haven't bought new clothes in 3 years, and the thin calluses on my hands once snagged my only silk nightgown." During the court hearing, Ollie didn't show up, only sending attorney Chen in his place. Plaintiff Karen coldly slammed her sunglasses onto the table, her delicate face filled with irritation. "Ollie, why didn't you come? I want a divorce." Lawyer Chen looked apologetic. "Mr. Ollie is in an international meeting and can't get away. He said he's already sent the $1 billion heart of blue diamond from the Ibis auction to the villa and will definitely come back to accompany you tonight." Karen snorted coldly, shouting toward the judge's bench, "I'm determined to get divorced today. I can't take it anymore." Lorraine struggled to maintain professionalism. "Plaintiff, please state your reasons for divorce. The court will take them into consideration." Karen crossed her arms and complained, "He gives me the silent treatment. He only spends half the year with me, sometimes disappearing the moment I open my eyes in the morning. He stood me up. I haven't used that black card for a whole month, and he didn't even notice. And last month in Los Angeles, I said I had a stomachache, but he didn't even fly over overnight to make me kanji. When I called him, he was too focused on his meeting to hear me say I wanted that heart-shaped blue diamond. Belated affection is cheaper than grass." Karen's rant that sounded like complaints but was actually showing off left the entire courtroom speechless, especially Lorraine, who never imagined her usually cold and workaholic husband could show such tender affection. She thought Ollie was just another corporate drone working in City H. Even feeling sorry for how hard he worked to earn money, Aubrey's baby formula was all paid for with her pre-marriage savings. She'd been saving money like a complete fool. Still dreaming of their future together, how ridiculous she must have seemed in Ollie's eyes. Her eyes stung as a tear fell onto the case file, causing the name Ollie to blur and spread across the paper. Attorney Chen insisted on presenting evidence to prevent the divorce, leaving the court proceedings at a standstill. At that moment, Ollie called. Attorney Chen exhaled in relief and pressed the speakerphone button. The familiar voice echoed through the courtroom via the phone speaker. "Hey baby, I was wrong. Okay, I bought you another island. How about I take you there for a month in a couple days? I don't want a divorce. It took me so long to marry you. If you divorce me, you might as well kill me." Finally, Karen burst out laughing. "Silly, I had you on speakerphone, everyone heard you. So no takebacks." Lorraine listened to her husband's sickeningly sweet words, feeling as if her heart were soaking in sulfuric acid, burning with unbearable pain. The trial concluded hastily, yet she still had to organize case files for her husband and his childhood sweetheart. Ding dong. Her phone buzzed with a breaking news alert from Hong Kong media. Barrett family's heir and beloved wife spotted on romantic date at Golden Bay Club, marital crisis proven false. The two in the picture are embracing sweetly, her eyes dimmed as she hailed a taxi and rushed towards the Golden Bay Club. Along the way, fragments of memories with Ollie kept flashing through her mind. They met at a business cocktail party, where by chance she helped Ollie resolve a tricky case. Thinking their paths would never cross again, Ollie began pursuing Lorraine with fierce determination, and they quickly fell in love. Perhaps because she lost her father at a young age and yearned deeply for a happy, complete family, she immediately said yes when Ollie proposed. Ollie once knelt before her mother and vowed to treat her well for the rest of his life. During their first year of marriage, Lorraine felt like she was being treated like a queen. Every time they ate, Ollie would personally peel shrimp for her, remembering all her dietary restrictions. On Valentine's Day, he prepared a grand sea of flowers to present her with a ring he designed himself. On her birthday, he handed over all his assets, moving her to tears with that $1 million. What truly touched Lorraine was that Ollie voluntarily underwent a vasectomy. He kissed her lips and confessed with deep affection, "Lorraine, I love you, and I will respect you even more. We'll have children when you're ready." Yet in the second year of their marriage, Lorraine unexpectedly became pregnant, and Ollie was also transferred to City H. It was from that moment their relationship began to deteriorate rapidly. Ollie's laughter and chatter with friends drifted out from the slightly ajar private room door. "Ollie, you're really something, a warm home with wife and kids in City A, while your childhood sweetheart in City H keeps you company. We lonely souls are truly envious." The man in the main seat scoffed, "If you're jealous, I can give you a cheap father to be." "No way. If your old man finds out his grandson calls me dad, he'll skin me alive. By the way, when are you planning to tell Karen about this?" Ollie took a deep drag from the cigarette between his fingers. "After we return from vacation next month. Karen has deep affection for me. She lost her chance to be a mother, saving my life years ago. I owe her a child, and she'll definitely love Aubrey. Aren't you afraid the one from City A will make trouble? I heard they're a lawyer. Can you handle that?" The white mist swirled, obscuring the man's expression as his callous laughter answered everything. "What does being a lawyer matter? Her mother is still alive. With just a little maneuvering, Lorraine will obediently hand the child over to me." The friend nodded. "True enough, if you hadn't married her just to spite Karen back then, that woman wouldn't have gotten the chance to pick up the scraps. Count yourself lucky." Lorraine felt her entire body turn ice cold, as if her heart had been brutally torn open, flooding with blood in an instant. His kindness towards her had been nothing but a deception. She and Aubrey were merely chips casually staked in their petty quarrel. She had no recollection of how she walked out of the Golden Bay Club. The moment she stepped outside, she received a call from her senior, who was all the way in California. "Lorraine, how's being a judge treating you?" "Tough, exhausting, and underpaid." "Right, honestly, why not come to California? Our firm is about to go public, and I can offer you a partner position." This time, she didn't hesitate and agreed immediately. "All right, see you in California in 10 days. "Ah, you really agreed?" Being a judge is indeed quite dull, but the resignation process takes 10 days. Once everything's settled, I'll come over." Senior Darcy went to California right after graduation to start a law firm and had invited Lorraine many times. Back then, because she married Ollie, she temporarily shelved the idea. Then, "Have you discussed it with your husband?" A hint of mockery flickered at the corners of her lips. "I don't have a husband anymore." Now she was not only husbandless but also unmarried, a lamentable state of affairs. There was a brief silence on the other end. Darcy, being perceptive, likely surmised the marital upheaval and chose not to press further. "Senior, I only have 2 requests for going to California, if you can agree to them. I'm willing to sign a lifetime contract with Mori Wei Law Firm. First, help me erase all identity records in City A, including my mother's. Second, I want to bring my mother and child to immigrate to California together." Darcy replied cheerfully, "Great, that's nothing for me, Lorraine. Looking forward to having you on board." As the call ended, Lorraine leaned against the cold wall, her face wet with tears. Not a minute later, the phone rang again. It was Ollie, the same courtroom voice, but with a different tone, distant and cold. He asked, "Have you arrived in City H?" "Yes, I'm here." After completing her onboarding at the courthouse, she had shared this surprise with Ollie. "I've booked your return tickets to City A for the day after tomorrow. Take Aubrey out for a couple of days. I'll be away on business for a month starting tomorrow and won't have time to accompany you." Lorraine smiled bitterly. Being asked to leave so soon after arriving, was it because he was in a hurry to accompany his childhood sweetheart on that island vacation? "Ollie, Let's meet up. A light click of the tongue came from the other end. I'm very busy. Lorraine, can't you stop being so willful? Before she could say anything more, the call ended. Staring at the darkened screen, the last flicker of light in her heart extinguished as well. Ollie didn't love her, nor did he love Aubrey. Then she would simply vanish from his world, taking Aubrey with her. Lorraine dragged her heavy steps to the hotel. The moment she opened the door, a soft, doughy little bundle came barreling into her arms. Mommy, Aubrey misses you so much. Her eyelashes fluttered as she held back the flood of tears, kissing Aubrey's cheek. Aubrey, would you like to live abroad with Mommy? There won't be Daddy there, just Mommy and Grandma. Aubrey beamed with innocence as he nodded. Mommy and Grandma were his entire world. Then is it okay if I won't see Daddy anymore? Aubrey puckered her little mouth and gave her a loud kiss on the cheek. Wherever Mommy is, Aubrey will be there too. She held Aubrey tightly, finding only fleeting peace in her heart. Lorraine didn't tell her mother about this matter, because her mother had high blood pressure. She planned to break the news gradually after immigrating. The next day, she submitted her resignation to the court's higher authorities. Her assistant and clerk colleagues were shocked when they found out. Lorraine, did you win the lottery? The judge's exam is so hard to pass. How could you bear to resign? Lorraine smiled and said, I've thought about it, and I want to return to my old profession. True. Lawyers in City H make so much money these days. Lorraine didn't mention she was going to California to practice law. They'd never meet again. City H was a city that had broken her heart. She would never return. Before her shift ended, Lorraine received a call from an unknown number. As soon as the call connected, Aubrey's sobs flooded her ears. Is this Aubrey's mom? Aubrey got food poisoning at our daycare and has a slight fever. Would you like to take her to the hospital? Aubrey was at daycare. A fever. Lorraine's brow twitched, and she rushed to the daycare without even taking time off. She called her mother many times along the way. But no one answered. She had no choice but to take the weak Aubrey to the hospital first. Fortunately, it was a close call. The hospital prescribed some medicine, and after taking it, Aubrey felt much better. She couldn't help but ask Aubrey, did Grandma take you to the daycare? Then where did Grandma go? Aubrey lowered her eyes, her small hands fidgeting nervously as she hesitated before speaking. Grandma went to earn money. She said Mommy works too hard, and told me to be good at daycare. Promised to buy me ice cream. Her mind went blank, darkness clouding her vision. Perhaps her mother thought she'd quarreled with Ollie over financial troubles and wanted to help however she could. Half an hour later, her mother finally returned her call, but her voice was hushed, tinged with nervousness and helplessness. Lorraine, I'm currently working as a nanny at my employer's house. Did something happen to Aubrey? Lorraine felt a pang in her heart and couldn't bring herself to utter a single word of blame toward her mother. With a hoarse voice, she asked, Aubrey is fine. Are you working hard? Where are you? I'll pick you up after work. Mother let out a relieved sigh, her tone brightening slightly. This employer was introduced by Ollie when I called him. Don't worry. I said I was introducing for a friend, not that I'd be the one working. Mom just wants to help you both. Ollie made the introduction. He waves his hand to buy Karen a $1 billion blue diamond, yet plays poor in front of them. Who knows how long he plans to keep up this act of being the impoverished son-in-law. Lorraine didn't think much of it and took Aubrey with her, heading straight to the address her mother had sent. It was a famous hillside villa in City H, with its elegant surroundings, backing onto Victoria Harbour. It boasted the most stunning night views in City H. Though the price tag was jaw-droppingly high, Lorraine found the house number on the address and rang the doorbell. Aubrey was in his curious phase. Pointing at and reading the plaque on the door, Beloved Karen, Manor, the sensitive words startled Lorraine. The black and gold plaque indeed bore 4 engraved words, Beloved Karen Manor. The door creaked open, and her throat felt as if a giant hand were gripping it tightly, choking off her breath. To her astonishment, it was Karen who opened the door. Equally surprised was Karen. Ms. Lorraine, what brings you here? At that moment, Lorraine's mom hurried out to explain. Ms. Karen. This is my daughter, here to pick me up from work. Lorraine finally caught her breath and tightly grasped Aubrey's little hand. Aubrey cried out Mommy in pain, catching Karen's attention. I never thought Ms. Lorraine was already married. With such a big child, Karen stepped forward to pat Aubrey's head, but the child dodged and warily hid behind Lorraine. Ms. Karen, the child is shy around strangers. Please don't mind. Karen narrowed her eyes, smiling as she looked at Aubrey. So adorable and somehow familiar looking. Lorraine caught her breath, hurriedly said goodbye, and left with Lorraine's mom and Aubrey. On the tram, she struggled to process everything that had just happened. Ollie actually asked her mother to become Karen's nanny. Beloved Karen Manor. And the lush sycamore trees stretching as far as the eye could see all were proof of Ollie's love for Karen, and she was just the nameless, unrecognized third party. How cruel he was. Turning his own son into an illegitimate child, those vows of eternal love whispered in her ear had become shameful brands seared into her life. Now when she thinks about it, Ollie, what had he ever given her? A cheap handmade ring, a marriage spent mostly apart, 5 long years of emotional neglect. She'd foolishly kept wondering if she'd done something wrong, if his financial pressures were too great, if the long distance had cooled their affection. She'd spent her life savings raising their child. Worked tirelessly to pass the judge's exam in City H. Just as she was eagerly starting this new chapter, Ollie dealt her a crushing blow. It turns out she was just a pawn in his and Karen's relationship game. Even the identity he told her was fake. Lorraine hid all her pain, forcing a smile as she took Lorraine's mom and Aubrey out to dinner. One can only say City H is truly small. A server wheeled past them with 999 roses in the Riverside restaurant. The crisp, melodious sound of a violin began to play, and the restaurant erupted in enthusiastic cheers. Let's warmly celebrate Mr. Ollie and Ms. Karen's 6th wedding anniversary. It's Karen again. She stood at the center of the crowd like a little princess being adored, while the man with his back turned knelt on one knee. The platinum wedding ring on his left hand stung Lorraine's eyes. Only the diamond ring on Karen's hand matched it as a set, making the fake she wore seem dull in comparison. Her wedding ring was handmade by Ollie, who had even engraved a circle of letters around it. He said it was her name, symbolizing that he had lost to her for a lifetime. How foolish she had been, polishing that wedding ring over and over, treasuring it like a precious gem. What a laughable farce. Lorraine flusteredly tried to take Lorraine's mom and Aubrey somewhere else to eat, but there was no time. Ollie's confession already echoed through the restaurant. Karen, I'll love you forever. You'll never shake me off in this lifetime. Ollie, then you'd better obediently submit to this young lady's whims. Karen revealed a charming, blissful smile. Fine, I'll be your devoted servant alone. That dazzling blue diamond was slipped onto slender fingers as Ollie kissed Karen's hand before pulling her into his embrace. Lorraine's mom stared in shock at the horrifying farce, then noticed Lorraine's hesitant expression before angrily dragging her to the restroom. Lorraine, was that Ollie just now? How could he marry someone else? And that woman is my employer. Her mind was in turmoil, her head bowed like a quail, as she spilled everything. Fortunately, Lorraine's mom had taken her blood pressure medication before coming, but she was still trembling with anger. Him, how dare he? I'll go demand an explanation from him. Mom, she stopped Lorraine's mom. He's the crown prince of the Barrett family, someone we can't afford to offend. I just want to get through these 10 days and take you away. Okay. Lorraine's mom looked at the tears in her daughter's eyes and her shattered expression, and could only let out a deep sigh. They tidied up and returned to their seats, only to find Aubrey was gone. Lorraine's heart leaped into her throat again as she hurriedly asked the restaurant staff, do you mean that adorable little boy? He left with Ms. Karen. She turned pale with shock. What? Karen encountered the lost Aubrey in the hallway and asked Aubrey how she ended up there. The child's little face scrunched up, on the verge of tears. I can't find my mom. Auntie, can you help me find my mom? Karen took the little hand and said, all right. Come with Auntie to the private room, and we'll call Mommy. Okay. Aubrey nodded vigorously and obediently followed along. Karen pushed open the private room door and excitedly introduced, Ollie. Look who I found. This kid looks exactly like you when you were little. Ollie's pupils constricted as he took a clear look, and along with a few friends who knew the truth, they all fell into silence. Aubrey broke the silence, pattering over to Ollie's side before calling out in a clear, childish voice, Daddy. When Lorraine found the private room, it was in complete disarray. Only Ollie sat at the head of the table waiting for her. He stubbed out the half-smoked cigarette between his fingers and sauntered toward her with leisurely steps. Ollie, where's Aubrey? Did you? Before she could finish her sentence, Ollie grabbed her by the neck and slammed her violently against the wall. Gritting his teeth, his eyes bloodshot, he growled. Lorraine, was this deliberate? When did you find out who I am? What do you want? The man before her seemed so unfamiliar. As if they'd just met, she felt a chill run from head to toe. Ollie, that's my line. Why did you have to mess with me? Why did you lie to me? She hated this man. He had ruined her and destroyed Aubrey. He was utterly despicable. To deceive her, he even went so far as to forge a marriage certificate. This was fraud, pretending to be poor to trick her into marriage. Then cheating during it, but she had no power to confront Ollie, so she didn't even have the courage to question him. He scoffed coldly, releasing his grip. I'll give you money. Aubrey stays with me, name your price. There was no apology, no explanation, only pity and sympathy flickering in his eyes. She stiffened her neck. No way, you never wanted me to have Aubrey in the first place. I won't give him to you. In their second year of marriage, she got pregnant. Ollie showed no joy, just sat in the living room, shrouded in smoke all night. Early in the morning, he urged her to abort the child, coaxing her with both soft and harsh words, but she refused. Aubrey is the Barrett family's child. Do you have the money to provide him with a high-quality life and education? Lorraine knew she couldn't confront Ollie head-on, so she softened her voice and pleaded, Ollie, even if you want to take Aubrey away from me, at least give the child a transition period. He's suffering from food poisoning and has a fever today. Can we sit down tomorrow and talk this through properly? This trick worked well. Ollie softened his gaze and relented, allowing the driver to take them to see Aubrey. As they were leaving, he suddenly called out to Lorraine, the bond between me and Karen isn't something you can break. You've got ideas in that direction. Lorraine paused mid-step but didn't turn around. On her way back, she had someone investigate the past between Ollie and Karen. Ollie was kidnapped at his 18th birthday banquet. It was Karen who risked her life to save Ollie from the kidnappers. Cornered and desperate, the kidnapper fired at Ollie in a fit of rage, and Karen took the bullet. Those 99 pellets cost her the chance to ever become a mother. Truly a bond forged in life and death. Lorraine stopped deluding herself. She decided to contact Darcy to quickly take her mother and Aubrey away from this troubled place. Ollie settled Aubrey in a spacious apartment. To Lorraine's surprise, the place carried traces of Ollie's life but showed no signs of a female presence. Her face was clouded with worry, while Aubrey appeared quite happy. At night, Aubrey peeked out her little head and asked, Mommy, will we get to live with Daddy from now on? Lorraine felt a lump in her throat. What if we can't? Would Aubrey be sad? Aubrey nodded, then quickly shook her head and hugged her tightly. As long as I'm with Mommy, Aubrey is happy. But it'd be even happier with Daddy here. Lorraine pressed a bitter kiss on Aubrey's forehead. I'm sorry, Aubrey, I'm going to let you down. The next day, Lorraine didn't see her mother and assumed she had gone grocery shopping, paying it no mind. In reality, Lorraine's mom had gone to resign. She simply couldn't swallow this injustice. She intended to reveal the whole truth to Karen and demand justice for her daughter. Beloved Karen Manor. Lorraine's mom hesitated over her words, but was halted by strange noises from the study as she passed by. The door was tightly shut, with faint sobs and inexplicable wet sounds coming from within. You villain! How could you have a child with her? Karen, it was an accident. I was drunk when I touched her. I even got a vasectomy for you. I truly never thought she'd get pregnant. Ollie's voice came in broken fragments, still laced with restrained desire. Lorraine's mom widened her eyes in shock, clutching her chest as she staggered backward. Yet the voice continued relentlessly. I won't forgive you this time. We're getting divorced. My little tormentor. I've been kneeling for you all night. Won't you spare me? Don't you also like Aubrey? I'll bring the child back. I promise. Lorraine, I'll handle her properly. She'll never appear before you again. Whimpering cries were swallowed by kisses, replaced by blushing moans. Does it feel good? Karen, I'm about to die on you. That night I touched Lorraine. It was only because I mistook her for you. From now on Aubrey will be our child. Since you lost your chance to be a mother while saving me, I'll repay you with a child, alright? Karen panted, saying it wasn't enough. Ollie chuckled hoarsely. Where isn't enough? Here. Or where? You're awful, alright? How about I give you another 10% of Barrett family's shares? How about I give myself to you as compensation? Lorraine's mom stared blankly, trembling as she pulled out her phone. She needed to tell her daughter about this group's conspiracy. Suddenly, she couldn't catch her breath, and her vision grew increasingly blurry. With a thud, her phone tumbled down the stairs. Staggering to retrieve it, her feet slipped, and she followed, rolling down the steps. The phone rang. Playing Aubrey's nursery rhyme in her sweet, childish voice. Rockabye, rockabye, rocking to Grandma's bridge. Grandma calls me her good baby, but she'll never hear it again. Lorraine had felt uneasy since waking up this morning, as if something ominous was brewing. She needed to take Aubrey and her mother away from here as soon as possible, lest complications arise. The phone rang with a sharp, piercing ding-a-ling. Her nerves taut, she answered the call. Hello, Senior, Lorraine. Your and your mother's identities have been deregistered, but Aubrey's status shows she's not on your household register. We can't proceed. She recalled that when she first gave birth to Aubrey, it was Ollie who handled the newborn's household registration for her. Could it be? Now we need Aubrey's household registration information to complete the cancellation. Lorraine, was Aubrey registered under your ex-husband's name? Her heart sank to the depths. If it was truly under Ollie's name, everything would become extremely difficult. Steadying her voice, she asked, "Does this mean we just need to obtain Aubrey's household registration booklet to complete the cancellation?" "Yes, but you need to hurry. I've already expedited the new immigration procedures. If the old identity isn't cancelled in time, it could cause serious trouble." "Okay." After hanging up, Lorraine paced back and forth in the living room. Suddenly, her gaze fell upon the locked study. She called for a locksmith. Normally, opening a main door lock would require presenting property deeds and identification, but she simply claimed that a child had lost the keys while playing. With that excuse, the locksmith took just a few minutes to open the door. The study was adorned in similarly cold grey tones. Beneath the massive desk sat a pure black titanium steel safe. Lorraine took a deep breath, crouched down, and looked at the combination lock. Her memory was extraordinary. She had passed all her bar exams on the first try. While reviewing Ollie's divorce case files that day, Karen's birthday had also been seared into her mind. 960513 with a sharp click. The safe door sprang open. She bypassed several confidential company documents and rummaged inside until she found the dark red marriage certificate and household register. On the marriage certificate were Ollie and Karen's radiant, blissful smiles, completely different from her counterfeit version. Ollie had kept a stony face when taking their wedding photo, saying he disliked being photographed. "It's not that I dislike taking photos. I just don't want to take them with people I don't like." Opening the household register, sure enough, Aubrey's name was clearly listed. Ollie is truly ruthless. He actually dared to secretly register Aubrey under his and Karen's names. This is even more heartbreaking than rubbing salt in her wounds. Lorraine had no time to dwell on it. She quickly took Aubrey's title page, snapped a photo, and sent it to Darcy. Then, with lightning speed, she restored all the documents to their original state. Just minutes after finishing everything, her phone rang again. She thought it was Darcy. "Hey, Senior, do you need any more information?" On the other end was a doctor. "MS, Lorraine, hello, your mother has been in an accident and her condition isn't good. Please come to the hospital immediately." What happened?" "Your mother suffered intracranial bleeding from a fall down a hillside, along with complications from high blood pressure." Rolling down the hillside, Lorraine had no time to think. She picked up Aubrey and rushed to the hospital. At the sight of her mother's tragic condition, her head spun with dizziness. And she instantly broke down in tears. Aubrey had his eyes covered, still naively asking if Grandma hadn't taken her medicine properly. The doctor came out of the operating room, sighing as he said they'd done all they could. Her legs gave way, and she collapsed to the ground, tears streaming down her face. Lorraine lost her father at a young age. Lorraine's mom endured countless hardships to raise her, yet before she could enjoy her twilight years, she met her end in a foreign land alongside her daughter. If only she hadn't been so determined to chase after Ollie, they wouldn't have come to City H, and her mother would never have met with such a tragic fate. She pounded her chest, her heart already shattered to pieces. A soft little hand wiped away her tears. Aubrey's small arms encircling Lorraine's neck. "Mommy, don't cry. Grandma will definitely get better." Poor Aubrey didn't know Grandma would never come back. Lorraine discovered her mother's phone was missing while sorting through her belongings. A suspicion slowly surfaced in her mind. Her mother had never been fond of hiking, so how could she have fallen down a hillside? The area where they lived was flat. The only hills were near that half-mountain villa. In an instant, the warmth seemed to drain from her limbs. She didn't hesitate, pulling out her phone. "Hello, I want to report a crime." The police quickly took over the case, and the forensic examiner began the autopsy. A preliminary conclusion was soon reached. Lorraine's mom had impact injuries that didn't resemble a fall from a hillside, but rather collisions like those from stairs. Through investigating street surveillance footage, the police confirmed Lorraine's mom was heading in the direction of the hillside villa. Lorraine already had an answer in her heart, but she needed solid evidence to prove it. Just as she was about to uncover the truth, the investigation was abruptly halted. The police hastily closed the case as an accident, brushing her off with the excuse of insufficient evidence. A kind-hearted female officer whispered a warning. "Miss, have you offended someone you shouldn't have? I advise you to give up, let your mother rest in peace, and not bring trouble upon yourself." She understood the implication. In City H, only the young master of the Barrett family, Ollie, could wield such absolute power. Lorraine wiped away her remaining tears and resolutely hailed a taxi to the hillside villa. She wanted facts, she wanted the truth, otherwise, she would be failing as a daughter. She shouted herself hoarse at the gates of beloved Karen Manor, but couldn't summon Karen to appear. Instead, Several bodyguards shoved her to the ground violently. Ollie's call came through, and the moment she answered, an enraged voice erupted. "Lorraine, what are you causing a scene for? What does your mother's death have to do with Karen?" She was no longer afraid of anything now. "Ollie, I truly regret ever knowing you. Have you forgotten what you said when you knelt before my mother back then? You promised you would love and cherish me for a lifetime. Look at what you're doing now. You didn't even come to see my mother when she passed away. And worse, you tried to cover up the sinful truth." The man across from her threatened with displeasure in his voice. "My patience has limits. If you keep making a scene, I'll make sure you never see Aubrey again in this lifetime." The last breath in her heart was drawn out, and she collapsed to her knees. "Mom, I'm sorry, Mom." Aubrey was her last remaining hold on life. Without Aubrey, she couldn't go on living. Lorraine was walking up the mountainside in a daze when a middle-aged woman in maid's attire stopped her. "Though I only worked with your mother for a day, she was an extraordinary person." The woman pressed something into her hand. "Take care of yourself, this is all I can do for you." With that, the person hurried away. Lorraine opened her palm to find her mother's phone. A murder case involving the heir of the Barrett family quickly became trending online. The post only revealed the general circumstances of the victim's employment at the Barrett family estate and their subsequent mysterious death. The ending mysteriously teased a real-name livestream at 8 p.m. tonight to speak out for the victim. The number of likes has already surpassed 1 million, a juicy scandal involving the wealthy elite, complete with a loss of life. Such big news has always been the talk of the town during City HS leisure hours. The Barrett family at the top floor of the corporate headquarters, an expensive crystal ornament shattered with a loud bang. Ollie paced back and forth in the office, fuming with anger. "Find Lorraine immediately. Take down all posts related to the Barrett family online at once." On the sofa, Karen looked utterly panicked. "Ollie, it really wasn't me. After you left, I had someone take her to the hospital. I never expected she'd jump from the car." He held the aggrieved Karen in his arms to comfort her. "All right, I'll handle it. Don't worry about it. What kind of thing is Lorraine anyway? I don't believe she can stir up any trouble. Will I be implicated? I'm scared." He planted a kiss on Karen's forehead and firmly said no. Lorraine never expected the post to gain such massive attention. While thrilled, she also felt uneasy Ollie might see it. Would he try to stop her? Now she and Aubrey were hiding in a small motel. After tonight's livestream, she'd fear nothing. At exactly 8:00 p.m. Beijing time, she started the broadcast as promised. Beside her computer lay the prepared evidence and a recording. Once the recording went public, the whole world would demand justice for her. No more fearing Ollie ever again. She took a deep breath, pulled out her ID card, and began the live stream. "I, Lorraine, am making a real name report against the Barrett family." Just then, her phone rang call after call from Ollie. She declined them all. Finally, a message popped up. "If you don't want anything to happen to Aubrey, end the stream now." There was a link behind it, seemingly another live stream link. A bad premonition surfaced in her heart as she nervously clicked it open with trembling fingers. That small face was streaked with tears. Aubrey was tied to a chair, crying out for her mother. Before the live stream, Aubrey had said she wanted ice cream. While drafting her speech, she had given her the money. Since it was just in the hotel lobby, she didn't pay it much mind. At that moment, a senior police superintendent intervened in her live stream, and an even more authoritative news agency began rebroadcasting it. The viewer count instantly surged to 100,000. Ollie's call came through simultaneously, and she answered. "Lorraine, do you think you're the embodiment of truth? Have you considered Aubrey?" she asked with a trembling voice. "What do you want to do?" His laughter carried a chilling tone. "Aubrey's life is in your hands. You have 3 minutes to go off air, otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless." Countdown. 3 minutes. Are you insane? Aubrey is your own son, she screamed, her mind flashing back to Ollie holding Aubrey with loving tenderness. 2 minutes left. Lorraine closed her eyes as tears fell onto her speech draft, her mother's figure toiling for over 20 years drifting through her heart. "Please, stop forcing me, Ollie. You're so cruel." Final minute. The voice remained merciless. A piercing scream gripped her heart, and her eyes flew open. Aubrey was suspended high above. The wooden plank beneath her suddenly pulled away, revealing a massive crocodile pit. The ravenous reptiles gaped their bloodthirsty jaws, their gleaming green eyes fixed on the slowly descending Aubrey. "Mom, save me." Lorraine felt as though she were being flayed alive, the pain unbearable. She surrendered. "Ollie, let Aubrey go." She pressed the end button on the livestream that had millions of viewers. Ollie waved his hand and set Aubrey down. Half an hour later, Aubrey was brought before her. Ollie's sinister voice echoed in her ears. Lorraine, don't entertain such thoughts again. Karen didn't kill your mother. And remember, this is City H, you can't escape my grasp. He glanced at the speech draft on the table, let out a cold laugh, then sent the pristine fragments flying high, scattering in all directions, overestimating yourself. Lorraine no longer had the strength to fight Ollie. She clutched the long-lost Aubrey tightly in her arms. She had seen it clearly, Ollie's heart belonged only to Karen, and neither she nor Aubrey held even the slightest weight in it. She lowered her head, but Karen seemed intent on not letting her off. The next day, an uninvited guest arrived at the apartment. Karen stood at the doorway, looking down at Lorraine and her child with an air of arrogance. Flanked by 2 towering bodyguards, she tucked a stray lock of hair behind her ear. Don't misunderstand, I'm not here to throw my weight around. This was arranged by Ollie, who said he was worried someone might harm me. I couldn't very well refuse. Lorraine gritted her teeth in frustration but dared not act. Tomorrow she would be leaving with Aubrey and didn't want any more trouble. What are you doing here? I brought gifts for you, Karen said with a crimson smile. Ollie said Aubrey will be under my care from now on, so I thought I'd win over the little one. The bodyguard indeed produced several Lego models from behind. Aubrey shrank behind Lorraine, shouting, "Go away, I hate you." Karen wasn't angry, covering her lips with a smile. She said, "Aubrey, I'm your mother after all. If you hate me, you'll be punished." Lorraine shielded Aubrey and politely asked her to leave, but Karen raised her eyebrows. "Don't rush. I haven't even shown you your gift yet." Then, a white porcelain urn appeared in the bodyguard's hands. The golden engraving on the urn made her pupils contract sharply. It was her mother's name. She reached out frantically to snatch it, but grasped only air. "Give it back." Karen waved it triumphantly and commanded, "On your knees." Lorraine had always loathed Karen and Ollie. Even if she died today, she would reclaim her mother's ashes. She grabbed Karen by the throat, moving so fast the bodyguards couldn't react. A sharp slap landed on Karen's face. "How dare you hit me? Hit you? I want to kill you. Pay with your life for my mother." Her grip tightened with such force that even the bodyguards panicked, but she was quickly pulled away, bodyguards restraining Lorraine, while Karen bent over coughing violently, her eyes bloodshot. "Go, flush that thing down the toilet for me." Lorraine glared furiously. "How dare you, you bastard." As the bodyguard actually entered the bathroom, she panicked and began pleading. Karen laughed wildly, relishing Lorraine's heartbroken expression. She watched helplessly as all the ashes were poured into the toilet. "No, please, I'll kneel for you. Please don't." At that moment, Aubrey lunged forward. Karen kicked Aubrey away, and pressed the flush button herself. "Your mother deserved to die. You all deserve to die. Now it's your mother who's gone. Who's next?" Karen's laughter was ghostly, chilling to the bone. "What's all this commotion?" The door swung open unexpectedly. Ollie frowned deeply. Karen changed her expression faster than flipping a page, immediately covering her face and clinging to Ollie's chest to complain. "I came to bring Aubrey a gift, but..." Lorraine slapped me and even turned Aubrey against me. The crimson handprint instantly ignited the fury in his heart. Aubrey dared not approach Ollie, crying as she defended her mother. "No, it's this bad woman. She did something to Grandma." "Enough." Ollie's face darkened dramatically. "Is this how you're teaching Aubrey?" Lorraine stared blankly at the bathroom, thinking it was silent consent. He roared in fury, "Slap her 99 times right now, teach her a lesson she won't forget." The bodyguard immediately moved to act. Aubrey was terrified out of her wits, her tiny frame blocking the bodyguard's path to no avail. Soon, Lorraine's face swelled grotesquely from the blows. Yet she never uttered a single plea for mercy. Plop, a tooth fell to the ground, mixed with blood. Ollie couldn't bear it any longer and scolded, "Lorraine, apologize to Karen right now, and I'll let you go." Her mouth was so swollen she couldn't make a sound, but she stubbornly shook her head. After 99 slaps, even the bodyguard's hand was in bad shape, let alone Lorraine. She lay unconscious on the floor, and when she woke again, it was to find a cold-faced Ollie by her sickbed. "Karen is kind-hearted. She's allowing you to stay in City H and to meet with Aubrey regularly. I'll also compensate you financially. Your mother's death was an accident to begin with, so behave yourself. I won't mistreat you or Aubrey." He knew Lorraine had a stubborn temperament. Back then, he had chosen her precisely because he was drawn to her unyielding core, but now it had become a source of his headache. He expected Lorraine to refuse or make a scene, but she didn't. With a hoarse voice, she struggled to speak through her lips. "I promise, it's my birthday today. Could you let Aubrey come keep me company?" Ollie was surprised by her sudden change, but then thought perhaps Lorraine's mom passing away had given her some insight. But this was a good thing. So, he had someone bring Aubrey over. He told Lorraine to rest well and that he would come see them later, then left. Lorraine watched the tall figure disappear through the doorway. The last glimmer of light in her eyes extinguishing. For 6 years, he couldn't even remember his own birthday. She struggled to stand up, embracing Aubrey. "Sweetheart, we have to go now. From now on, you'll only have Mommy." Aubrey nodded through sobs. "Mommy, don't worry, I'll take care of you for Grandma." A surge of bittersweet emotion welled up in her chest. Aubrey understood everything. Lorraine contacted Darcy and rushed to the airport to board the flight using the new identity he provided. Just as she and Aubrey were about to go through security, those familiar black-suited bodyguards came running toward them. She quickly grabbed Aubrey and ran, but another group of bodyguards appeared ahead, trapping them from both sides. Aubrey broke free from her grip, gave her a deep look, and then dashed toward a less crowded area. He tilted his little face up, silently mouthing a goodbye to Lorraine. "Mommy, wait for me to find you." Lorraine was jostled into the security checkpoint by a tour group, watching helplessly as Aubrey was taken away. In a daze, she boarded the plane to California, gazing down at the glittering lights of City H. All the people who loved her had been left behind there. The wings roared, carrying her endless longing across the ocean to the shores of freedom and hope. As the workday neared its end, Karen called to ask Ollie if he wanted to have dinner together that evening. For the first time in his life, Karen was lied to by him. He used the excuse of working overtime to decline her dinner invitation. After hanging up the phone, he glanced at the coffee table where the birthday cake he'd asked his secretary to order in advance sat, then curled his lips into a subtle smile. Ollie gazed at Lorraine's swollen cheeks in the hospital room, feeling an unexpected pang of pity. Last night, he had indeed gone too far. In his memory, she had always been the image of a strong, optimistic woman, someone whom no storm could ever break, especially at the negotiation table during their first meeting. Ollie looked directly at a woman other than Karen for the first time, dressed in a sleek black suit. Lorraine radiated confidence, and her poised, articulate demeanor left a deep impression on his mind. That day, a safety incident occurred at the factory in City A. Coincidentally, Karen was in the midst of filing for divorce, so he traveled to City A for business, hoping to give them both some space to cool off. Before leaving, his friend gave him terrible advice, saying he had spoiled Karen too much over the years, which was why she kept threatening divorce. The friend suggested finding another woman to provoke her, claiming it might make her think twice about leaving. Ollie thought it was a good idea the moment he saw Lorraine. When everything was over, he would compensate her generously. A woman as strong as her probably wouldn't be heartbroken over love. So, Ollie fabricated a fake identity and began pursuing Lorraine. They were like dry timber set ablaze, completely unstoppable. On the night when emotions ran deep, he held the blushing Lorraine, her rosy skin driving him wild. In a moment of lost reason, he even proposed to the woman beneath him. On one side was the drama queen Karen, who had turned his world upside down. And on the other was the intellectual woman Lorraine, who resonated with him. Since Karen had grown tired of this marriage, then so be it. The next day, Ollie instructed his lawyer to deliver the divorce papers to Karen. He and Lorraine held a wedding ceremony, using his household registration in City H as an excuse to delay getting the marriage certificate first. Lorraine, being understanding, didn't say much, just when he thought he had handled everything perfectly. The lawyer said Karen refused to sign the divorce agreement. Then the Carlton family called him, saying Karen had attempted suicide by cutting her wrists in despair. He rushed back to City H without stopping, where the pale-faced woman sobbed in his arms, asking if he didn't love her anymore. At that moment, Ollie was speechless. In the end, years of affection triumphed over novelty, and he decided to go back and confront Lorraine. But the moment they met, she dropped a bombshell. She was pregnant. Ollie acted like a coward for the first time, using a job transfer as an excuse to hide in City H. White mist swirled, and the guilt from his memories now filled his heart to the brim. He extinguished his cigarette, picked up the cake from the coffee table, and headed to the hospital. He would try his best to make amends to Lorraine and Aubrey, as long as they behaved themselves and stopped causing trouble. But when he arrived at the ward, it was empty. Ollie's heart pounded with unease. As if something was draining away from his chest, he stopped the nurse and asked, "Where's the woman from this ward?" The nurse gave the man a hostile look. She left with her child, a perfectly fine woman beaten nearly beyond recognition. What else was she supposed to do but run? What? He flew into a rage and ordered his bodyguards to find her immediately. The nurse muttered under her breath, putting on an act of devotion now that she's gone. Didn't hold back when beating her into the hospital, did you? Otherwise, Why would she force herself to escape even with a high fever? With a bang, Ollie smashed the cake in his hand against the wall, startling the young nurse. He couldn't be bothered to argue with a mere nurse and immediately arranged for someone to intercept Lorraine at the border. She wants to take Aubrey away. Absolutely not. Soon, news came. Mr. Ollie, the information you provided is incorrect. The interception failed. What do you mean? Lorraine's identity records have been completely erased. It's as if she never existed. Ollie clenched his phone so tightly the veins bulged at his temples. Perfect. So Lorraine had been planning her departure all along. Erasing one's identity and arranging a new one isn't something done in a single day. Just as he was about to issue a global bounty, the bodyguards he'd sent to the airport returned. Let me go. Aubrey flailed and clawed at the bodyguard. Mr. Ollie, we've brought the child back. But Lorraine, we couldn't catch her. He crouched down to touch the soft little face, only to have his hand swatted away by tiny fingers. Aubrey, turning her face away, looked exactly like an angry Lorraine, making one want to tease her properly. It's all right, as long as the child comes back. She can't have gone far. His tone was resolute. Aubrey glared at him with reddened eyes, puffing up angrily. Mom won't come back, because you already have a wife, and you bullied Mom. It was me who sent the bodyguards away so she could escape. When I grow up, I'll go find her, so you can just give up. Aubrey, stop making trouble. Call your mom. I'll make it up to you both properly. Ollie paid no heed, took out his phone, dialed, and held it to Aubrey's ear. He thought it would be like that live stream. Lorraine would bow her head for Aubrey. Small hands snatched the phone and with a precise throw, sent it flying out the half-open window. Ollie, darkened with anger, gave Aubrey a beating, but the stubborn child didn't even open her mouth to cry. He decided to take Aubrey home first to let Karen bond with her. Karen's smile froze when she saw Aubrey. She had only pretended to agree to let Ollie bring Aubrey back for her to raise, just to force Lorraine to leave. Never did she expect it to actually happen. Karen, from now on Aubrey will be living with us. I'll have him call you Mom. She looked stunned, thinking she must have misheard, then asked after a pause, does Lorraine agree to this? Ollie hugged her. She's gone, but I'll bring her back. You'll live in the east side of town. She'll stay in the west. No interference between you. After all, she gave birth to Aubrey for me, and lost her mother in City H. I can't just abandon her. Karen, don't worry. The Barrett family's lady position will only be yours. It will never change. Karen, though gritting her teeth in hatred, still forced a smile and pretended to agree. Aubrey, from now on I'll be your mother. Be good now, call me Mom. Aubrey lowered her eyes and flinched away like an electric shock when her hand reached out. You're not. You're a bad woman, Aubrey, Ollie shouted sternly. Karen feigned disappointment. Since Aubrey refuses to acknowledge me as her mother, perhaps I'm simply not qualified to be one. These words struck Ollie's most sensitive nerve. He roughly pulled Aubrey forward, forcing her to call Karen Mom. I won't. I have a mother. She's a murderer. You. Ollie raised his large hand high, but Aubrey's face showed the same expression as Lorraine had that day. He couldn't bring himself to strike her. Aubrey, Auntie isn't a murderer. Your grandmother fell to her death by accident. Aubrey charged like an enraged calf, gathering momentum to ram into Karen. Karen clutched her stomach and collapsed to the ground. Ollie, my stomach hurts so bad. Finally, that slap still landed on Aubrey's face, and Ollie locked Aubrey in the attic to reflect on her actions. The next day, Karen gazed at Aubrey cowering behind the door. You look just like your whore of a mother. Let's see how tough you really are. Imitating her cruel stepmother, she looped violent horror films in the attic for Aubrey to watch. Screams echoed endlessly from the attic, unsettling even the housemaid. Yet Karen sipped her bird's nest soup as if nothing were happening. It wasn't until evening that she finally allowed the nanny to bring some food to Aubrey. Aubrey must have been frightened by yesterday's turmoil, or perhaps beaten too severely by Ollie, for he developed a high fever that night and began delirious rambling. The nanny came knocking frantically, her face full of anxiety. Madam, the young master has a high fever, 40 degrees, frowning. She sneered contemptuously. Do I look like a doctor to you, idiot? But Driver Lee is on leave. Should we call an ambulance? Soon. She pursed her red lips, a new idea forming in her mind. Bring him to my room. I'll take care of him. He must be missing his mother. The nanny hesitated, but meeting Karen's fierce gaze, she dared not disobey. Karen covered Aubrey with a thick cotton quilt and mixed a generous dose of sleeping pills into the fever medicine. Lorraine, you'll regret this. Even if the fever doesn't kill her, it'll turn her into an idiot. She ordered everyone not to enter the room, then happily went downstairs to swim in the hot spring pool. But before long, the roar of a Ferrari echoed through the courtyard. in the swimming pool, Karen cursed under her breath and hurried back to her room. Aubrey. Ollie received news of Aubrey's fever after finishing the cross-border meeting and raced back to the manor. Upon pushing the door open, Karen was changing the towel for Aubrey, her forehead beaded with sweat from anxiety. Ollie, Aubrey has a fever and just vomited all over the bed. I feel so heartbroken. Don't worry. I'll take him to the hospital right now. Thank you for looking after him. Karen, I'll go with you. Ollie picked up Aubrey and they rushed to the emergency room together. Thankfully, it was delivered in time, and after the fever-reducing shot, everything was fine, but Aubrey still hadn't woken up. The doctor said it was likely febrile convulsions, and to prevent the child from having seizures, it was best to have someone watch over them. Karen volunteered. Ollie, I'll stay up and take care of her. Won't that be too tiring? I'll have the nanny do it. No need, this is your child, which means they're my child too. I'll feel more at ease taking care of them personally. You should go back now. Ollie really wanted to stay, but there was an important meeting tomorrow morning that he couldn't afford to miss. After giving a few instructions, he left. Febrile seizures, then perhaps it's better not to wake up at all. Karen clutched the slender, fragile neck with both hands, tightening her grip relentlessly. Aubrey began to thrash violently. Mom, Grandma, Aubrey cried out in agony. Yes, we'll see Grandma soon. Aubrey, be good now. Bang, the hospital room door was kicked open. Karen reflexively loosened her grip. Karen, what are you doing? Ollie stared in disbelief at the panicked Karen. As he was leaving, the doctor informed him that Aubrey's blood tests showed sleeping pills, and his brainwaves were severely abnormal. The nanny beside them trembled as she said the mistress had fed the young master sleeping pills. He hadn't wanted to believe it, but turned back to demand an explanation only to witness such a scene. Aubrey is just a child. Are you trying to kill him? Karen looked deathly pale, her explanation feeble and unconvincing. Ollie pointed at the strangulation marks on Aubrey's neck. If I hadn't come, would he have died? I just had an episode. Ollie, you know I've been suffering from depression since that kidnapping. And now, Lorraine showed up with Aubrey. I was afraid of losing you. She wept pitifully, her tear-streaked face genuinely making Ollie's heart ache. If you have an episode, you take your medicine, you see a doctor, but you laid hands on a child. How am I supposed to forgive you for that? Ollie threw the blood test report beside her. Then how do you explain this? You fed Aubrey sleeping pills. Karen instantly felt guilty, but she had been acting in front of Ollie for 7 years and knew exactly how to manipulate this man. Her acting skills erupted as she cried and laughed simultaneously, utterly heartbroken. Ollie, you don't believe me. You actually don't believe me. This afternoon Aubrey accidentally took my sleeping pills by herself. You'd rather believe the nanny than me. These 7 years and those 99 shotgun pellets were all wasted in vain. Karen ran out of the hospital with tear-streaked face, leaving Ollie alone in bitter regret. He had indeed acted too impulsively, and his words were deeply hurtful. As the impulse faded, Ollie began to worry about Karen's condition. She had moderate depression, and he feared she might do something drastic. After that kidnapping incident, to prevent such things from happening again, he had installed a tracker in Karen's wedding ring. The tracker showed her at a spa, and just as he breathed a sigh of relief, Karen sent him a video. When he opened it, his pupils constricted violently. A knife had sliced open a snow-white wrist, and blinding blood gushed out. He immediately called Karen. Ollie, since you don't love me anymore, I don't want to live either. The voice was faint as a thread, plucking at his heartstrings like a thin wire. No, Karen, I was wrong. I shouldn't have doubted you. Please don't do this. I'll give you anything you want, okay? His apology was cut short as the call abruptly ended. He immediately drove towards the located spa. As the Ferrari screeched to a halt outside the beauty salon, he received Karen's new message. Ollie, I love you too much. That's why I feel insecure. I'm afraid you'll neglect me because of Aubrey. That's why I acted that way. I don't know what to do anymore. His fingers trembled as he typed. That won't happen. Karen, what can I do to give you complete security? I'll agree to anything. I want half of the shares of the Barrett family. Ollie was already striding upstairs. The receptionist, hearing he was the husband of the VIP Ms. Karen, thought a big deal was coming and enthusiastically led the way. He wanted to push open the door, tightly embrace Karen, and tell her that anything was fine, even if it meant transferring all the shares to her. But the sounds of laughter and conversation coming from inside the private room made his hand freeze on the doorknob. Damn, girl, you're the only one in all of City H who dares to treat the Barrett family's crown prince like a dog, getting whatever you want from him. Karen chuckled smugly. This is nothing. One day, I'll make the Barrett family take my surname, Lynn, And that bastard son of theirs, believe me, even if I really killed him, Ollie wouldn't dare say a word, her best friend asked curiously. Aren't you afraid he'll find out about the fake wrist-cutting video? She scoffed. Right now, he's probably panicking to death. The more frantic he gets, the more details he'll overlook. To keep Ollie under my thumb, I even studied psychology. This wrist-cutting act is my play for half of the Barrett family's shares. Wanna bet on it? No, you're definitely going to win. Don't forget about your sisters when you do. On the other side of the door, laughter erupted inside the room, while outside, Ollie's expression shattered as his entire worldview crumbled and collapsed. It was as if he had never truly known Karen. In his daze, his phone rang, and the conversation inside the private room abruptly stopped. Ollie turned and walked away, answering the phone. The frantic, anxious voice completely snapped his already strained nerves. Mr. Ollie, something terrible has happened. Young Master Aubrey, he's disappeared. In the private room, Karen heard the familiar roar of an engine downstairs. But her friend convinced her that not every Ferrari on the street could be Ollie's, so she dismissed the thought. Yet even after completing her full spa treatment, she still hadn't received any reply from Ollie. She felt somewhat anxious, but she couldn't let all her efforts in staging this wrist-cutting drama go to waste. At the very least, she had to wait until tomorrow before returning to the estate, so she went back to the Carlton residence. At the Carlton residence, she reigned like a queen. For the Carlton family's current status and everything they possessed were all thanks to her. At the dining table, no one dared to pick up their chopsticks until she arrived. Mr. Carlton tentatively asked about Ollie's son. Could he threaten your position? Should Dad help you take care of him? Karen dabbed her lips with a napkin. No need, I'll make Ollie willingly get rid of him himself. Why dirty our hands, Mr. Carlton nodded repeatedly, knowing his daughter already had Ollie completely under her thumb. Then she announced, I've decided to have a child. Arrange an embryo lab for me. I'm going to personally bear Ollie a son. The Carlton family remained completely silent, because Karen's fertility was a secret. The kidnapping wasn't actually that brutal. The 99 shotgun pellets were just a smokescreen. Karen was ruthless too. To climb into the Barrett family, she had doctors create countless gunshot scars. To thoroughly manipulate Ollie, she bribed doctors to falsely claim she'd lost her fertility. Karen reflected on her way back. The guilt from those years had been depleted over time. Which was why Ollie didn't immediately cave to her demands this time. Then she'd just have to manufacture some fresh guilt. She wanted to personally bear a son for Ollie, so that all the family assets of the Barrett family would then be firmly in her grasp, killing two birds with one stone. Mr. Carlton hesitantly asked, but wouldn't Ollie become suspicious? Karen let out a cold laugh. He's always been a fool. When the time comes, we'll just make up some excuse, say we found a miracle doctor or that a miracle happened. He'll be overjoyed. No sooner said than done. Mr. Carlton immediately contacted the best team abroad. The next day, Karen returned to the manor on her own initiative. Ollie was slumped on the sofa, with empty liquor bottles scattered haphazardly across the expensive woolen carpet, and the ashtray overflowing with cigarette butts. The air was thick with the heavy scent of alcohol and a faint tinge of sorrow. Karen's lips curled into an expected smile. Ollie, what's wrong with you? Are you so upset because of me? Ollie suddenly clenched the hand that had reached out. The glaring white bandage on the wrist a cruel irony. Ollie, you're hurting me. She withdrew her hand, retreating to advance. I was too impulsive yesterday. My father has already scolded me. I'm sorry. He couldn't help but laugh inwardly after all these years. This was the first time she'd ever apologized. Karen, Aubrey has been taken away. Karen felt a surge of joy, believing heaven itself was aiding her. She was about to offer comfort when the tall man suddenly stood up, glaring at her with intimidating intensity. Guess what I found in the attic? A diary with crooked handwriting landed in her lap. It recorded everything that happened during those dark 8 hours, page after page. Still bearing traces of dried tears, he gritted his teeth and gripped her shoulders with such force it seemed he wanted to crush them. You actually let such a young child watch 8 hours of horror movies. And you put sleeping pills in his fever medicine. Were you trying to kill Aubrey? This was the first time Ollie had ever lashed out at her so fiercely, leaving her frozen in shock. No, it must be the child making things up. Besides, Aubrey, didn't you lock him in the attic? Why blame me? Ollie's heart was twisted in agony as he roared. I was just punishing him a little. I didn't tell you to show him horror movies and then drug him to death. Karen squeezed out large tears, tightly wrapped her arms around his waist, and admitted her mistake while skillfully avoiding the main issue. Ollie, I know I was wrong. Aubrey is gone, but I'll be here with you. Don't be like this, you're scaring me. Ollie pushed away the hand at his waist and walked out with heavy steps. Ignoring Karen's cries, he needed some peace and quiet. He didn't know how to face this version of Karen anymore. Ollie received an anonymous package from overseas at the office. At first, he was excited, thinking it was from Lorraine, but when he opened it, the photos and a USB drive scattered across the table, he stared fixedly at the screen, where a familiar face gripped his heart like a demon's claw. The video showed Karen from years ago, yet it wasn't the Karen he knew. The woman inside was wanton and frivolous, wearing exaggerated makeup, letting all sorts of men hold her as they swayed on the dance floor. That year Karen wanted the Carlton family to intervene in the Barrett family's upper echelons. He refused, so she started making a scene about divorce and ran off abroad in a fit of pique. He thought Karen had left in anger, but it turned out she went abroad to indulge in unrestrained pleasure, judging by the accents. The video was filmed by a few rich second-generation kids from City H. Karen, how was last night's black manservant? More exciting than Ollie? Karen smoked with dazed eyes, laughing wildly. He's so boring, always afraid of hurting me. Ha ha ha, I prefer wild love, so much more exciting. No sooner had she spoken than her lips were already pressed against the white man's burly chest muscles. The group of playboys burst into laughter, then dump Ollie. You can play anything abroad, way more fun than City H. Karen narrowed her eyes, exhaling a thin wisp of smoke that dissipated to reveal calculation gleaming in her gaze. I'm no fool, I've nearly trained Ollie into the most obedient dog. Why sacrifice enormous benefits for momentary pleasure? I know the difference between one-time fun and endless luxury. Wild men are a dime a dozen, but a gold mine, once it's gone, it's gone. The shrill laughter made Ollie's temples throb with rage. The glass in his grip shattered abruptly, shards embedding deep into his palm. He didn't even flinch. But the video wasn't over yet. Karen started playing drinking games with those rich second-generation kids. She made an outrageous bet. Let's play big. If I win, you strip and jump in the pool. If I lose, I'll have Ollie get a vasectomy for me. With a loud bang, Ollie smashed the computer screen with his fist. His right fist was already dripping with blood. The secretary heard the commotion and hurried in to inquire. Ollie collapsed weakly against the back of the chair, eyes closed as he gave instructions. Investigate the origin of this package, and have the video on the USB drive authenticated for its validity. The secretary worked swiftly and soon returned with the results. The package originated overseas, with no sender, and the video authentication results are genuine. Ollie felt the last thread of composure in his heart snap completely. Mr. Ollie, there's one more thing, it's about MS. Karen, speak. Today the planning department reported that our new product launch plan was leaked. A competitor company released the same product ahead of us. The legal department's investigation revealed that MS. Karen's cousin sold company secrets for a high price. These days, one blow after another struck like icy blades, shredding his affection for Karen into pieces. A few years ago, Ollie couldn't withstand Karen's persistent pleas and allowed those incompetent relatives from the Carlton family to take positions in the Barrett family business. Little did he know they would cause so much trouble. He pondered carefully. Over the years, Karen had always picked fights with him over trivial matters, each ending with his compromise, and after every argument, Karen would make numerous demands, like arranging many of the Carlton family members. Suddenly, a growing black hole emerged in his heart. Back then, did Karen already know about his affair with Lorraine? He suddenly stood up, determined to confront Karen. Mr. Ollie, what should we do about MS, Karen's cousin? Fire him. His voice was icy, but the secretary wore a troubled expression. Ollie finally realized that over the years, the Carlton family had taken advantage of his favoritism toward Karen to bully and suppress employees from the Barrett family. He continued issuing orders. Single out everyone from the Carlton family and fire them all. This is an order. The secretary saw a glimmer of hope and immediately set to work without delay. Just as he stepped out of the office, the secretary anxiously called out to stop him. What's wrong? Could it be that the Carlton family is refusing to comply? The secretary, without pausing to catch her breath, handed over the tablet. The headline news prominently featured Ollie and Lorraine's wedding photos in the largest section. Shocking, Barrett family's eldest son sailing 2 boats, photos of the second wife exposed. According to insider sources, Barrett family's golden grandson is already 3 years old, yet registered under the first wife's name. The second concubine once served as a judge in City H, presiding over the divorce case between the young master of the Barrett family and his first wife. Our publication exclusively presents the thrilling courtroom footage, Ollie trembled as she clicked the link, her breath catching in her throat. The scandal dominated the headlines for hours. Barrett family's company stocks hit the limit down. When the wall starts to crumble, everyone gives a push. Countless rivals once suppressed by the Barrett family have now joined the fray. A whirlwind of half-truths and outright lies has dragged the Barrett family's conglomerate into an unprecedented PR crisis. In the office, Ollie sat grim-faced, chain-smoking cigarette after cigarette, the ashtray already overflowing. Mr. Ollie, the PR team has done everything possible, but there are simply too many leaks to contain them all. Mr. Ollie, multiple major investors have pulled all funding and taken key personnel from several core projects with them. Bad news came flying in like snowflakes, leaving him dizzy and disoriented, irritated. He waved everyone out and was about to call Karen when the office door was suddenly flung open from outside. A spirited but furious old man walked in, leaning on a pearwood cane, surrounded by a group of bodyguards. Grandfather. Ollie stubbed out his cigarette and stood up. Slap. A crisp slap echoed through the entire office, Ollie's face instantly bearing 5 distinct finger marks. Old Master Lou trembled with rage, his cane striking the floor heavily. Fool. You've disgraced the entire Barrett family name. He hurled a thick stack of documents at Ollie's face, papers scattering across the floor. Open your eyes wide and see clearly. What kind of woman have you been cherishing in your heart all these years? Ollie bent down to pick up a document, his pupils suddenly constricting. It was a detailed investigative report, clearly documenting Karen's transaction records with the kidnappers. So, that kidnapping case from back then was nothing but a play orchestrated from start to finish by the Carlton family. The purpose was to make Karen seamlessly enter the Barrett family and become the lifesaver of his Ollie. In my opinion, that so-called loss of fertility of Karen is probably pure nonsense. How could you have believed it for so many years? Impossible. This can't be. Ollie rubbed the report paper with his fingertips, his tall frame swaying unsteadily. Karen had deceived him from start to finish, and he had carried this guilt for so many years because of that lie. He even went so far as to get a vasectomy, treating his only biological son as an accident. All his years of deep affection and loyalty, all his guilt and compensation, had become nothing but a joke. Ollie drove back to beloved Karen estate when the sky had completely darkened. Karen heard the car and came out to greet him as usual. Ollie, you're finally back, I heard. Grandpa got angry with you. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have lost my temper and put you in such a difficult position. As she spoke, she was about to throw herself into his arms for comfort. Just as she had done countless times before, Ollie instinctively sidestepped to avoid her. Ollie, what's wrong? She asked tentatively. Ollie didn't answer, walking straight into the living room and throwing his briefcase heavily onto the sofa. Karen thought he was still upset about the company matters. Ollie, I know I was wrong. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have been so petty when the company was in crisis. She tugged at his trouser leg, glistening tears clinging to her long lashes, a sight pitiful enough to melt any heart. This was her ever-reliable weapon. In the past, the moment she cried, Ollie would immediately soften and cradle her in his palms to comfort her. But today, he just coldly threw out a single sentence. Karen, let's get a divorce. Karen's face instantly drained of color. What did you say, Ollie? Don't scare me like this. We just made up. Ollie let out a mocking laugh. Out of respect for all these years we've shared, out of gratitude for you taking a bullet for me back then, I wanted to spare you some dignity, but it seems you don't want it. Karen panicked. She clutched at him again, her face streaked with tears like rain on pear blossoms. I don't want a divorce. Ollie, I love you. Shut up. Ollie suddenly stood up, his furious shout making her whole body tremble. He turned and took out the stack of documents old man Lou had given him from his briefcase, then flung them violently onto Karen's face. See for yourself. Karen trembled as she picked up a document. When she saw it was an investigative report about a kidnapping case, her entire body froze. Seeing her lie exposed, the grief instantly vanished from her face. She got up from the floor, smoothed her disheveled hair, and sneered coldly. Fine. Let's divorce, Ollie. Don't forget we have a prenuptial agreement. If we divorce, I want half of your assets, every last penny. Otherwise, I'll expose all of the Barrett family's secrets. We'll both go down together. Looking at her venomous expression, Ollie felt nothing but disgust. All these years of genuine love, all his guilt and affection, had they really been wasted on such a viper? Over my dead body, he hissed through clenched teeth. The murderous intent in his eyes now impossible to conceal. The argument ended badly. Ollie slammed the door, leaving Karen's curses far behind. The next day, he returned to a messy office, and his assistant carefully handed him an unmarked express package. Mr. Ollie, this was received this morning, and the sender's information is empty. Ollie waved his hand, signaling his assistant to leave. He unwrapped the package to find only a USB drive and a note inside. The note bore typewritten words. 100 million in cash for your wife's freedom in her remaining years. Otherwise, these videos will dominate the front pages of all media outlets in City H. Ollie frowned deeply as he inserted the USB drive into his computer. The screen lit up, revealing several video files in plain sight. He clicked on the first one. The footage was shaky, clearly shot covertly. In the video, a woman kicked an unconscious elderly man off a cliff, despite the dim night. Ollie recognized instantly that the woman was Karen. The clothes worn by that old man were exactly the same as what Lorraine's mom had on when he last saw her. That day, she had clearly promised to send Lorraine's mom to the hospital for treatment. Why did it turn out like this? His breath hitched as he tremblingly clicked on the second video. This time, the footage was crystal clear. The location was in the bathroom of the apartment he had arranged for Lorraine. Karen grinned viciously as she poured all the ashes from a white porcelain urn into the toilet, then pressed the flush handle. So this was the truth. He had actually hurt Lorraine so cruelly for the sake of a murderer, a demon who would even trample on the ashes of the dead. He slammed his fist onto the expensive mahogany desk, blood instantly oozing from the back of his hand. He immediately pulled up the surveillance footage from that apartment. Everything was exactly as shown in the video. Karen's cruelty, Lorraine's despair, Aubrey's screams, and his own brutality were all clearly recorded. Rage and remorse intertwined in his chest, gnawing madly at his sanity. He returned to the beloved Karen Manor, presenting all the videos before Karen. Someone has these filthy things of yours. The blackmailer has already contacted me. Karen turned pale with shock, pleading in panic. Ollie, you have to help me. I don't want to go to jail. Quick, think of a way to sweep this under the rug. All right, Ollie said slowly. I'll handle it for you. But what price are you willing to pay? Karen pointed at her stomach. I gave up the ability to have children for you back then. I've sacrificed my entire life for you. Isn't that enough? Enough, of course it's enough. Ollie chuckled lowly, a laugh that made Karen shiver inexplicably. I'll take you to the hospital for a checkup to confirm whether you're truly infertile. If it's not as you claimed, we'll just leave your uterus behind. Karen's face turned deathly pale in an instant. I was wrong, Ollie. I was truly wrong. The kidnapping was planned by my father, and the infertility was my lie to you. Ollie advanced step by step, his towering figure casting a shadow over her. Karen shrunk back in terror until her back hit the icy wall. With nowhere left to retreat, he leaned close to her ear, his voice as soft as a devil's whisper. You've been lying to me all along. You lost your chance to be a mother because of me. Since you love this excuse so much, why don't I help you make it come true? He straightened up and ordered the bodyguard at the door. Take Karen to the hospital. Tell the OB/GYN surgeon I want her uterus removed. No. Karen let out a piercing scream. She finally realized Ollie wasn't joking. Scrambling frantically, she threw herself at Ollie's feet, clutching his legs in desperate supplication. I just love you too much. Please, spare me this once. I'll bear your child. I'll give you a child smarter and more adorable than Aubrey. Okay. Ollie slowly crouched down, pinched her chin, and forced her to look at him. In his eyes burned a madness and hatred that could consume everything. Not aloud, he tilted his head, smiling with unparalleled cruelty. I even got a vasectomy, just for you. Ollie stood up, waved his hand, signaling to proceed. Two bodyguards dragged Karen into the car. The door slammed shut, cutting off Karen's heart-wrenching screams and pleas for mercy. Watching the car speed away, Ollie lit a cigarette. White smoke curled around him, blurring his handsome yet ferocious face. He took out his phone and dialed the police. Hello, I want to report a case. Someone is blackmailing me for 100 million. And I have the evidence right here. Karen was taken from the hospital ward. The cold handcuffs clicked around her wrists before she had fully regained consciousness from the anesthesia. Karen, you're suspected of multiple counts of assault and murder. You need to come with us. How dare you arrest me? I'm Mrs. Liu, the mistress of the Barrett family conglomerate. Her screams echoed through the empty hospital corridor. The once pampered heiress of the Carlton family now cut a pitiful figure, yet no matter how she struggled or shrieked, the only response came from indifferent officers mechanically handling procedures. The Carlton family soon received the news, but this time, they didn't bail her out. Instead, they severed ties with her at lightning speed. A discarded heir who committed murder and thoroughly enraged Ollie held no value to the family anymore, only a burden. In an instant, Karen plummeted from the clouds into the mire, becoming the family's scorned criminal. At beloved Karen Manor, Ollie smashed everything in sight. Gazing at the chaotic living room, what came to mind was no longer Karen's affected tears, but Lorraine. That woman never seemed to make any unreasonable demands of him. When he came home drunk from late-night business dinners, vomiting until the world spun, she would silently bring warm water, clean him up, then tiptoe away without complaint. When he was in a bad mood, he would lash out for no reason, throwing documents all over the floor. She would wait until he finished venting. Then pick up each piece one by one, reorganizing them by their codes before quietly placing a cup of tea by his hand. Before becoming a housewife, Lorraine was also a promising career woman. He reminisced about Lorraine debating on stage as a representative, confident, composed, and eloquent. Now looking back, it was a treasure he had personally destroyed. What he hated most now was his own self, blinded by lies. Find her for me, even if we have to turn the whole earth upside down. Find Lorraine for me, Ollie commanded his assistant over the phone. This wasn't Lorraine's premeditated departure, it was forced upon her, step by step, by his actions that drove her onto this path. In the despair of failing to find her, Ollie made a decision that sent shockwaves through the entire city. He held a globally live-streamed press conference. I, Ollie, stand here today not to dispel any rumors about the company, but to confess to one person. He bowed deeply toward the camera. I want to make a long overdue apology to my wife, Lorraine, for causing her irreparable harm. I single-handedly destroyed my family, hurt the person I love most and our child. I'm sorry to Lorraine, sorry to Aubrey, and most of all, sorry to the innocent Lorraine's mom who died tragically. By revealing all this today, I only hope she can see it. Lorraine, if you're watching, please, give me a chance to atone. By the end, this man who had never bowed his head in the business world actually shed tears before the entire world. This press conference, which could be called suicidal, exploded across the court of public opinion in City H and globally. Meanwhile, across the ocean in California, Lorraine calmly turned off the live news broadcast. Ollie's confession was nothing more than a meaningless performance to her. Her heart had already died the day she left City H. Mom, look, not far away. Darcy was holding Aubrey aloft, happily playing the airplane game on the lawn in the yard. Aubrey's clear laughter, like silver bells, melted into the brilliant sunlight. Lorraine's lips curled into an unconscious smile, her eyes brimming with tender amusement. Back then, just as Ollie was struggling to deal with Karen and the company crisis in the midst of chaos, Darcy hired a professional team who entered the Barrett household as child psychological counselors. Taking advantage of the nanny and security's laxness, they quietly whisked Aubrey away and boarded her onto a private jet bound for California. On the day Aubrey returned, she held the child and wept as if her heart would break. Now, everything had finally settled down. This was the life she wanted, peaceful, warm, and free from turmoil. She walked over, took Aubrey from Darcy's hands, and gently ruffled his soft hair. Aubrey, are you happy here? She asked softly. Aubrey nodded vigorously, his little face flushed. He wrapped his arms around Lorraine's neck and planted a kiss on her cheek. Lorraine's heart warmed, and she found herself asking impulsively, then, do you still miss Daddy? Aubrey's smile faded slightly. He glanced at the tender-eyed Darcy beside him, then looked seriously at Lorraine and whispered, Mommy, I like Uncle Darcy. Can we make Uncle Darcy my daddy? Children say the darndest things. She hugged Aubrey tighter, offering no reply as her eyes grew slightly misty. A year later, Darcy's law firm officially rang the opening bell on Wall Street for its IPO, becoming the most remarkable dark horse among Chinese law firms in recent years. The champagne tower refracted the dazzling lights. Amidst the mingling scents of perfumes and the elegant crowd, gathered the world's business elites and tech luminaries. As one of the company's founding partners, Lorraine stood beside Darcy, receiving congratulations from all directions. As the party reached its climax, Darcy, being the guest of honor, was pushed onto the stage by the crowd. Holding the microphone, he thanked all the guests and team members. Before his gaze finally traveled across the crowd and landed tenderly on Lorraine, the entire room fell silent, as if everyone sensed what was coming. Darcy descended from the stage and walked step by step toward Lorraine. Under the gaze of countless cameras and eyes, he knelt on one knee and opened a velvet box. Inside lay a dazzling diamond ring. Lorraine, the days I've spent with you have been the happiest of my life. I hope to extend this happiness for the next 50 years, or even longer. He looked up at her, his eyes brimming with overwhelming love. Will you marry me? Marry him, marry him. The crowd began to cheer. Erupting in thunderous applause, Aubrey even more excitedly tugged at Lorraine's skirt, her big eyes sparkling like stars. "Mommy, say yes to Uncle Darcy." Lorraine's eyes welled up with tears as memories from the past year flooded her heart. She slowly reached out her hand, about to speak. "I disagree." A voice pierced through the cheerful and harmonious atmosphere. The crowd automatically parted to make way. Ollie stood right there. Like a lone wolf that had chased its prey across the wilderness for a year, exhausted yet sustained by sheer stubbornness, he stared fixedly at Lorraine. The party music stopped, all eyes darted between the three of them. Lorraine trembled uncontrollably, the long-suppressed hatred burning in her chest. Darcy immediately shielded her and Aubrey behind him, his expression darkening. Ollie's gaze swept past Darcy. "Lorraine, don't agree." What answered him was Lorraine's resolute movement. She took Darcy's ring from the box in his hand and slipped it onto her ring finger. Then she raised her hand, turned to look at Darcy, and said firmly, "Darcy, I will marry you." Ollie's tall frame staggered violently, as if struck by a sledgehammer to the chest. He stared at that ring, its glare so piercing it nearly drew tears of blood from his eyes. "Aubrey," he clutched at this last lifeline, his gaze shifting to the little boy who was hiding behind Darcy, only half his head visible. "Aubrey, come here. Come to Daddy, it's me, your dad." Aubrey peeked out and gave him a timid glance. On that face so strikingly similar to his own, there was no childlike adoration, no longing, only wariness. Aubrey clung tightly to Darcy's leg, burying his face against it, and shook his head firmly. "Ollie," Darcy said with unmistakable dismissal, "if you don't want this to get ugly, leave on your own." He shot a meaningful glance at the security personnel nearby. Two burly security guards immediately stepped forward, flanking Ollie on either side. "Get off me." Ollie broke free from their grip, his eyes bloodshot as he glared at Darcy. "Who the hell do you think you are? How dare you steal my wife and son?" Darcy shielded Lorraine and Aubrey more tightly behind her. "Lorraine and Aubrey are my family now." "Family." Ollie repeated the word, laughing nervously. The security guard stepped forward again, attempting to forcibly remove him. At that moment, something no one expected happened. Ollie suddenly pulled out a black pistol from his suit's inner pocket. The cold muzzle gleamed ominously under the party lights, pointed directly at Darcy's forehead. "Who dares to move?" A chorus of terrified screams erupted throughout the venue as guests fled in panic, throwing the scene into complete chaos. Aubrey turned deathly pale with fright, clinging desperately to Darcy. Ollie ignored the surrounding chaos, advancing step by step until the gun barrel pressed firmly against Darcy's forehead, his voice hissing through clenched teeth. "Give me back my Lorraine, my Aubrey." "Ollie, stop it." Lorraine tried to rush forward but was firmly held back by Darcy's arm, facing the dark muzzle of the gun. Darcy showed no trace of fear on his face, even patting Lorraine's hand reassuringly. "Don't be afraid." The calmer he remained, the more frenzied the madness burned in Ollie's eyes. Why did he deserve Lorraine's love? Why did he deserve Aubrey's dependence? "I told you to give them back to me," Ollie growled, his finger already on the trigger. "Ollie, put the gun down first, then we'll talk." Lorraine broke free from Darcy's restraint and stepped forward. Ollie's gaze finally shifted away from Darcy, the madness in his eyes receding slightly. "Fine, you come with me." He slowly lowered the gun but still clutched it tightly in his hand. "Lorraine, don't go." Darcy grabbed her arm, his eyes filled with concern. "Don't worry, I can handle this." Lorraine gave him a reassuring look before turning to Ollie and saying, "Just at the cafe next door, I don't want Aubrey to see any of this." Ollie nodded obediently. The cafe had already been cleared out, leaving only the two of them inside. "What do you want to talk about?" Lorraine spoke first, her voice icy. "Lorraine, come back with me." Ollie pleaded urgently. "I know I was wrong, this past year. There hasn't been a single day I haven't searched for you, not a day I haven't regretted. Forgive me." "Okay, let's take Aubrey and return to City H. We can go back to how things were before." Lorraine let out a soft laugh. "Ollie, have you forgotten? The Lorraine you're looking for died long ago." She met his stunned gaze. "She died when you used Aubrey's life to force me to shut down the live stream. She died completely when you let Karen flush the ashes down the toilet and had someone slap me 99 times. The person sitting here now is a stranger you don't know at all." With a thud, Ollie left his seat and dropped heavily to his knees on the tiles before Lorraine, the man who wielded power like flipping clouds and rain in City H, who once stood so high above others, now knelt on the ground without a shred of dignity, his head tilted up, eyes brimming with tears. "I'm sorry, Lorraine, I'm sorry," he choked out, reaching to grasp her hand, only for her to recoil in disgust. Lorraine looked down at him coldly, her expression utterly unmoved. she floated a mocking question. Did you learn this act from Karen? Did you kneel and beg her like this before, trained to be her obedient dog? Too bad, Ollie, what worked on her won't work on me. No, Lorraine. I'll do anything if you'll forgive me, I'd even die for you, he pleaded abjectly. She narrowed her eyes. Ollie, you'd do anything, would you? Then can you bring my mother back to life? Can you gather every speck of her ashes that were washed down the drain? Ollie clutched at her skirt. Karen, she's already been sentenced to death. Execution next month. She took your mother's life, she'll pay with hers. He thought his words might bring her even the slightest comfort. Lorraine laughed instead. Laughed until tears streamed down her face. Her paying with her life, that was what she deserved. But what about the suffering Aubrey and I endured? Who will pay for that? She walked to the door and left with one final remark. Ollie, I warn you, don't harass me and my family again. In America, breaking into private property and threatening with a gun is enough to put you behind bars for life. Lorraine thought her warning would work, but she still underestimated the obsession of a madman. Early the next morning, Lorraine went for a jog. As soon as she opened the door, she saw an unbelievable scene. Ollie was actually kneeling on the lawn in front of their villa, covered in dew and grass clippings. Hearing the door open, he raised his bloodshot eyes, then made a move that even Lorraine found chilling. He raised his hand and, with all his strength, delivered a resounding slap to his own face. Slap. The sharp, crisp sound was startlingly out of place in the quiet of the early morning. First one, he rasped, as if keeping count. Smack, another strike landed. The second one, he struck alternately with both hands, each blow harder than the last. Soon, his already haggard face swelled up grotesquely, with threads of blood seeping from the corners of his mouth. Ollie mumbled incoherently while slapping himself. Lorraine, just watch, I'll make up for everything, one by one. What I owe you, I'll return it all. After 99 slaps, he was already somewhat delirious. His entire face was swollen like a pig's head, and his speech was slurred from the swelling. Lorraine watched his self-harming performance coldly until he stopped, panting heavily. Finished with your act? She asked indifferently. Ollie saw her response, and a glimmer of hope ignited in his eyes. Lorraine, I'm genuinely remorseful. I'll make up for everything, one by one. I hid my marriage from you before, but now I'd willingly be your secret lover if that's what it takes. Lorraine sneered inwardly. Did Ollie think the whole world was his stage, where he could perform a one-man show of affection anytime, anywhere? I'm not as despicable as you are. She didn't hesitate for a moment and picked up the phone. Hello, I'd like to report a crime. There's a man on the lawn in front of my villa engaging in self-harm. He's causing me severe harassment and fright. Yes, the address is. The police arrived quickly. Seeing that Ollie wasn't cooperating, they exchanged glances. One of them drew a stun gun, its buzzing electric current serving as a warning. At that moment, a black Rolls-Royce screeched to a sudden halt by the roadside. The car door opened. The Barrett family's elderly butler and several bodyguards hurriedly stepped out. The old butler quickly approached, explaining to the police in broken English. The police verified their identities and checked with the homeowner Lorraine to see if she wanted to press charges. Lorraine filed for a restraining order. More severe than charging him with harassment, Ollie was like a puppet with its strings cut, half dragged and half carried by the bodyguards into the car. The car sped all the way to the airport and directly boarded a private jet that had been waiting. As soon as he boarded the plane, Ollie saw the old master Lou, whose face was as dark as a pot. Grandfather. He had barely opened his mouth when the old man struck him hard on the leg with his cane. How dare you still call me grandfather? You've disgraced the Barrett family name all the way to the Pacific Ocean, kneeling at someone's doorstep slapping your own face. Ollie, I taught you to dominate the business world, taught you to make decisive moves, not to become a groveling dog begging for scraps. Ollie hung his head silently, enduring the scolding without a word. Look at what you've become. You've nearly run the company into the ground, getting it labeled as an ST stock, and here you are, running off to California to lose your mind. Who do you think you're doing right by? The ancestors of the Barrett family, or the employees who've worked so hard under you? The old man's scolding echoed throughout the cabin. Back in City H, Ollie not only failed to calm down but grew increasingly unhinged. He thought, what does Lorraine want? She wants Aubrey. Then he would take Aubrey back by force. As long as Aubrey returned, she would surely come back too. He began contacting City H's top-tier legal team and filed an international custody lawsuit in U.S. courts. Ollie fed the media countless half-truths, insinuating that Darcy was the homewrecker who deliberately destroyed their family. City H high society scandal. CEO's wife elopes with child in premeditated betrayal. exposing the rising star of Chinese lawyers Darcy, legal genius or emotional con artist specializing in poaching partners. Public opinion instantly ignited. With countless uninformed netizens launching verbal attacks, in faraway California, Lorraine received endless harassing emails and death threats every day. Darcy's company was also affected, with some partners questioning his character and even shareholders demanding he publicly clarify the situation. "I'm sorry, Darcy, for dragging you into this mess." Lorraine looked at the vile comments online, her heart filled with guilt. Darcy held her hand. "It's not your fault. People like Ollie would throw any kind of dirt to get what they want." Aubrey also sensed the storm outside. He became very uneasy, always clinging tightly to Lorraine, afraid that if he let go, his mom would be taken away. "Mommy, I don't want that bad daddy." Seeing the fear in her son's eyes, Lorraine felt her heart ache unbearably. She had wanted to give him a peaceful and tranquil childhood, but Ollie was determined to shatter even this modest wish of hers. She had had enough. If he wanted to escalate things, then she would see it through to the end. That evening, Lorraine contacted the world's largest media platforms, announcing a global live broadcast in 24 hours. The news sent shockwaves across the globe. Everyone wondered how the final chapter of this wealthy family feud would unfold. On the day of the broadcast, Lorraine stared directly into the central camera, as if looking at someone on the other side of the screen. She got straight to the point without any hesitation. The first piece of evidence was clearly projected onto the screen behind her. There were two documents, displayed side by side. On the left was the forged marriage certificate between her and Ollie, with their red background photo. On the right is Ollie and Karen's household register, clearly stamped with marital relationship. 6 years ago in City A, I held a wedding ceremony with Mr. Ollie. This marriage certificate was forged by him to deceive me, while he had already registered with Ms. Karen a year earlier and publicly declared that Ms. Karen was his one and only love. Therefore, today I accuse Ollie of his first crime, bigamy. My son Aubrey and I have been victims from the very beginning. However, this was merely the beginning. Next, she played the apartment surveillance footage and her mother's phone recordings, which clearly documented Ollie covering up for Karen. "The second charge I'm bringing against him is aiding and abetting. He condoned Karen's intentional homicide and even helped destroy the evidence." With each piece of evidence laid out, Lorraine delivered her final accusation. "Now, Ollie is playing the role of a devoted but wayward man before the whole world, using public opinion to attack me and my family, attempting to take my only son away from me. Tell me, everyone, should I hand Aubrey over to such a father?" The power of a global live broadcast is devastating. Ollie became a public enemy overnight, despised by everyone. Due to marriage fraud and involvement in a deliberate homicide case, he completely became City H's most scorned figure. The Barrett family's corporate stocks plummeted in response, triggering an immediate trading halt. Shareholders rushed to sell off their stakes, partners terminated contracts in haste, and the entire business empire crumbled at an unprecedented speed. Meanwhile, the high-profile international custody battle soon reached its verdict. In court, Darcy presented a team of elite lawyers who systematically refuted every accusation and slander from Ollie's side. The chain of evidence he presented was so meticulously complete it was almost outrageous, from Aubrey's psychological evaluation report to Ollie's history of misconduct and the global repercussions caused by that livestream. In contrast, Ollie's legal team was utterly defeated. All their defenses appeared feeble in the face of ironclad evidence. Ultimately, the judge pronounced in court, defendant Ollie is permanently stripped of visitation and guardianship rights over Aubrey, and sole custody of Aubrey is granted to her mother, Lorraine. When the verdict was announced, Lorraine in the public gallery could no longer hold back her tears of relief. This nightmare that had lasted far too long finally came to an end under the fair hand of justice. But for a madman, this was far from over. Outside the courthouse, Ollie blocked their path. He held a black pistol in his hand. "Ollie, you madman. Are you going to pull the same trick again?" Lorraine shielded Aubrey in her arms, still shaken by the memory. Darcy pulled her behind, shielding her from Ollie's terrifying gaze. Ollie advanced step by step until less than 3 meters separated them. The surrounding reporters and onlookers, not yet fully dispersed, raised their phones at the sight of this tense confrontation. Just then, Ollie raised the gun in his hand. A suppressed gasp erupted from the crowd, but the dark muzzle of the gun wasn't pointed at anyone. Instead, it swung around and pressed heavily against his own temple. "Lorraine, I'm giving you 2 choices. First, you come with me, we'll take Aubrey back to City H, start over. I'll give you the Barrett family. I'll give you my life, I'll give you everything. Second, you choose him, and then, I'll die right in front of you. Lorraine suddenly felt exhausted, a weariness that came from the depths of her soul. She didn't want to argue with him anymore, didn't want to be entangled with him any longer, she just wanted to end it all. Ollie, do you think your life is very valuable? Do you think that by threatening me with death, I'll be scared, soften my heart, or compromise? You're wrong. Meeting his stunned gaze, she slowly said, I choose option 2. Ollie's eyes completely dimmed. What did you say, Lorraine? Don't be so cruel to me. Okay, I said, if you want to die, then die, Lorraine repeated. Her tone even clearer than before, she added another sentence. But don't die in front of me. I'm afraid it might scare my child. Every word pierced like a poisoned blade, striking precisely into Ollie's already riddled heart. So even his death had become nothing but a nuisance to her. She left with such finality, such decisiveness, as if the man gambling his life in one last desperate bid behind her meant absolutely nothing. Ollie slowly closed his eyes, a wretched smile spreading across his face. Then, he pulled the trigger. Bang! A muffled gunshot rang out. Darcy pulled her and Aubrey tightly into his arms. Covering their eyes, don't look, don't turn around. In the distance, police sirens wailed loudly. Lorraine leaned into Darcy's arms and let out a long, long sigh. Ollie wasn't dead. The bullet had grazed his skull, taking half his life and stripping him of his identity as the heir to the Barrett family empire. He lay in the intensive care unit for 3 full months. When he woke up, though his life was spared, he was left with severe aftereffects. The nerves in his right leg were damaged, causing him to walk with a limp. His hands trembled uncontrollably, so much so that he couldn't even hold a pen steady. What's more, old Master Lou had completely lost faith in him. An heir who would risk his life for a woman and disregard the family's interests was the Barrett family's greatest shame. Ollie was stripped of all his authority after being discharged from the hospital. Old Master Lou adopted a capable and shrewd grandson from a collateral branch, who officially became the Barrett family group's new helmsman. As for Ollie, forgotten by his family, he moved back into the empty Barrett family ancestral home, where only endless silence kept him company each day. The verdict regarding Karen was also announced. With multiple crimes combined, it should have been immediate execution. However, Karen exhibited severe symptoms of mental derangement in prison, leading the court to commute the sentence to a suspended death penalty with a 2-year reprieve. She was admitted to City HS's most secure psychiatric hospital. Everyone thought she could at least survive for 2 more years, but they all forgot. Ollie, though stripped of power, had lost none of his innate ruthlessness. He hated Karen, a hatred that even surpassed his self-loathing. He bribed the doctors and orderlies at the mental hospital. He told them, I don't want her to die too quickly, I want her to live, but I want her to truly go insane. And so, Karen's good days at the mental hospital began. Every day, she would be tied to the bed and subjected to the highest intensity of electroshock therapy. At first, she still tried to plead for mercy, crying out, Ollie, save me. Eventually, she didn't even have the strength to cry out, her gaze becoming dull and vacant. Later still, she truly went mad. She would hug a pillow, calling it Ollie, laughing and crying into the empty air. She would wake up in the middle of the night, screaming don't come near me, Lorraine, and wet the bed in terror. Ollie occasionally receives videos sent by subordinates. In the video, that stunningly beautiful Carlton family heiress had become emaciated and filthy. Like a true mad dog, he watched expressionlessly, yet felt no satisfaction in his heart. He had taken revenge on Karen, but Lorraine would never return. A year later, Ollie had recovered somewhat, at least enough to walk slowly with a cane on his own. He obtained a U.S. visa using a fake identity. He didn't disturb Lorraine, just watched from afar. He rented a car and parked it daily on the street corner opposite Lorraine's house. He saw that every morning, Darcy would drive Aubrey to school, while Lorraine stood at the doorway, smiling and waving goodbye to them. Her smile was bright and warm. He saw that in the evenings, the family of 3 would go shopping at the nearby supermarket. Aubrey sat in the shopping cart, holding a lollipop. Darcy pushed the cart. Lorraine carefully selected vegetables nearby. Like all the most ordinary families, they were filled with the happiness of everyday life. He saw that on weekends, they would take Aubrey to have picnics on the park lawn. Darcy would accompany Aubrey playing soccer, while Lorraine sat nearby, watching them tenderly. Aubrey had grown quite a bit taller and would loudly call Darcy Daddy. Ollie, every time he heard that word Daddy, his heart felt as though it were being sliced to pieces. Like a wretched voyeur, he greedily stole glances at the happiness that should have been his. while that very happiness continued to slice him apart, over and over again. That evening, Lorraine and Darcy were taking a walk in the yard. Aubrey was chasing a butterfly on the grass not far away. They walked side by side, and at some point in their conversation, Lorraine suddenly laughed. She stood on her tiptoes and pressed a light kiss onto Darcy's lips. Darcy paused in surprise, then smiled as well. He lowered his head and tenderly, reverently, deepened the kiss. The lingering glow of the sunset stretched their shadows long, so long, intertwining together. Ollie sat in the car, watching the scene quietly from across the street. He instructed the driver to start the car, turn it around, and slowly drive away in the direction completely opposite to that setting sun. In the rearview mirror, those two embracing figures grew smaller and smaller, increasingly blurred. The end.